The bus doors closed with a sharp hiss. Not because it was late. Not because it was full. But because my disabled daughter didn't belong, at least, not according to the woman standing in front of her. Her backpack slipped from her lap and landed on the concrete. The bus pulled away. And in that moment, as my little girl sat there on the curb trying to understand what she had done wrong, the calm I had trained my entire life to master became the only thing holding me together. Because when you've spent years learning how to stay steady in chaos, you don't explode. You observe. You remember. And you act when the time is right. Mornings were predictable in our house. Predictability helped my daughter, Emily. Her disability affected her mobility, not her intelligence, and routine gave her confidence. Every weekday morning followed the same order: breakfast at 7:10, backpack packed by 7:25, wheelchair checked by 7:30. By 7:40, we were outside at the bus stop. Emily loved school. Not because it was easy, nothing ever was, but because it made her feel like everyone else. She talked about her teacher, her friends, the art projects she couldn't wait to bring home. I stood a few steps behind her, coffee cooling in my hand, watching quietly. I always watched. Not in a paranoid way, just attentive. Old habits don't disappear. They settle in. The yellow school bus turned the corner right on time. Emily straightened in her chair and smiled. I could tell she was excited. Mondays were music days. The driver slowed, preparing to lower the ramp. That's when a shadow crossed the sidewalk. She walked with purpose. Clipboard tucked under her arm. Sunglasses even though it was cloudy. That unmistakable posture of someone who believed rules existed for other people. HOA Karen. She'd been a problem for months: comments about parking, complaints about noise, concerns about accessibility modifications. Always framed as policy. Never framed as humanity. She stepped directly in front of the bus ramp. "Stop," she said sharply. The driver froze. "What's the issue?" the driver asked cautiously. Karen didn't answer her. She looked at Emily instead, eyes scanning her wheelchair like it was an inconvenience rather than a medical necessity. "She can't ride this bus," Karen said. Emily blinked. "I ride it every day," she said quietly. Karen's lips tightened. "This bus is already behind schedule. We can't accommodate delays." I took one step forward. "She has a right to be here," I said calmly. Karen turned to me, annoyed. "And you are?" "Her father." Karen smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Then you should understand liability." The word hung in the air. Parents nearby shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke. Karen reached down and lifted Emily's backpack from her lap. "Off the bus," she said firmly. The driver's eyes widened. "Ma'am, I can't." "I'm HOA president," Karen snapped. "I'll take responsibility." Emily's hands trembled. She looked at me, not crying, not yelling, just confused. "Daddy," she whispered. That was the moment something inside me hardened. Karen waved the driver forward. The doors closed. The bus pulled away. Emily sat on the curb, backpack beside her, watching the bus disappear. I knelt beside her immediately. "You did nothing wrong," I said softly. "Nothing." She nodded, trying to be brave. That bravery nearly broke me. Karen crossed her arms. "This neighborhood has standards," she said. "If you don't like it, you're free to leave." Phones were out now. Other parents had started recording. I stood up slowly. "You don't get to decide who belongs," I said. Karen scoffed. "Watch me." Karen pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the district," she said loudly. "And security." I nodded once. "Good." That response confused her. She expected yelling. Threats. She didn't understand calm. Within minutes, a school administrator arrived. Then another. They asked questions. Karen answered quickly, cutting people off, throwing around phrases like policy, safety, and efficiency. Emily sat quietly, holding my hand. One administrator finally turned to me. "Sir, can you explain what happened from your perspective?" I spoke clearly. Slowly. Precisely. The truth doesn't need speed. After listening, the administrator asked something unexpected. "Sir, may I ask what you do for a living?" I didn't hesitate. Former Navy SEAL. The effect was immediate. Karen's posture shifted. Her confidence cracked. Policies were checked. Accessibility laws were cited. Federal protections were mentioned. Karen tried to interrupt. She was stopped. The tone changed. Not aggressive, serious. The bus was called back. This time, the ramp lowered first. The driver smiled at Emily. "Ready to go?" Emily looked up at me. I nodded. She rolled on. Karen stood off to the side, silent. Karen was asked to step aside. Her clipboard shook slightly. She was no longer in charge. That evening, Emily asked me a question I wasn't ready for. "Daddy, why didn't she want me there?" I pulled her close. "Some people are afraid of what they don't understand," I said. "But that doesn't make them right." She thought for a moment. "I still want to go to school tomorrow." I smiled. "You will." The bus incident was over. But the consequences had just begun. When Emily came home from school that afternoon, she was quieter than usual. Not sad. Not angry. Just thoughtful. That kind of quiet worries a parent more than tears. I asked her how her day was. "It was okay," she said. "But everyone asked me why I missed the bus." I nodded slowly. Because the story was already spreading. By the next morning, my phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Emails. Voicemails. Messages from parents I barely knew. The school district scheduled a formal meeting. Urgent. Mandatory. And suddenly, Karen's authority stopped feeling so permanent. The conference room was quiet when we walked in. Administrators sat stiffly. Legal counsel joined by video. HOA representatives fidgeted. Karen sat at the far end of the table. No clipboard. No sunglasses. She didn't look at us. The superintendent spoke first. "Let's be clear," she said. "A disabled student was denied transportation in violation of federal law." Karen tried to interrupt. She was cut off. Policies were read aloud. Accessibility statutes. Anti-discrimination protections. Transportation mandates. Every sentence made Karen smaller. Karen finally spoke. "I was protecting the community," she insisted. "She causes delays." The room went silent. The superintendent leaned forward. "She is a child," she said firmly. "Not a problem." No one argued. I hadn't planned to speak much. But when I did, I kept it simple. "My daughter doesn't need special treatment," I said. "She needs equal treatment." I paused. "And she deserves dignity." Karen stared at the table. Documents were reviewed. Emails Karen had sent. Complaints logged. Requests to reconsider accommodations. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. The HOA representative cleared his throat. "We were not aware of these actions," he said quickly. "And we do not condone them." Karen looked up sharply. "You knew," she snapped. He avoided her eyes. Power abandons you when it becomes inconvenient. The decision came swiftly. Karen was suspended from all HOA duties pending investigation. She stood abruptly. "You can't do this." The superintendent didn't flinch. "We already have." Karen stormed out of the room. No applause followed. Just relief. Emily squeezed my hand. "Is it over?" she whispered. "For today," I said. That week, things changed. Neighbors who had avoided eye contact now waved. Parents stopped us to apologize. One mother cried. "I should have said something sooner," she said. I nodded. "Next time," I replied. Local news picked it up. Not sensational. Just factual. Disabled student removed from bus sparks investigation. Karen's name wasn't mentioned. But everyone knew. Karen stopped attending neighborhood events. Her house stayed dark. Her confidence had depended on silence. Now silence surrounded her. One evening, Emily surprised me. "Daddy," she said, "can I talk at school tomorrow?" I raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "About being different," she said. My throat tightened. "If you want to," I said. Emily stood in front of her class the next day. She talked about her wheelchair. About needing help. About being strong. Her classmates clapped. Her teacher cried. Meanwhile, the HOA investigation expanded. Other families came forward. Different stories. Same person. Karen. Selective enforcement. Targeted complaints. Harassment disguised as policy. Karen hired a lawyer. Threatened lawsuits. Sent angry emails. But threats don't erase evidence. A certified letter arrived. Karen was formally removed from her HOA position. Permanently. The vote was unanimous. I saw Karen one last time at the mailbox. She looked tired. Not angry. Lost. She opened her mouth to speak. Then closed it. Some lessons come too late. Life didn't become perfect. But it became fairer. The bus ramp lowered every morning. No hesitation. No permission needed. Karen had lost her power. But accountability was still coming. 2 weeks after Karen's removal from the HOA board, the letter arrived. Not from the HOA. Not from the school. From a civil rights attorney. The investigation had uncovered something important. What happened to Emily wasn't just cruel, it was illegal. Denying transportation to a disabled child wasn't a policy mistake. It was discrimination. And discrimination has consequences. The administrative hearing was quiet and formal. No shouting. No grandstanding. Just facts. Karen sat at one table with her lawyer. We sat at the other. Emily wasn't required to attend. I was glad. Children shouldn't have to watch adults explain why they failed to be decent. Karen spoke first. She claimed she was misunderstood. That she was overwhelmed. That she was only following rules. But every claim collapsed under evidence. Emails. Witnesses. Video. The truth doesn't argue. It waits. When it was my turn, I stood calmly. I didn't come here to punish anyone, I said. I came here because my daughter deserves dignity. I paused. She didn't ask to be different. She didn't ask to need help. I looked directly at Karen. She only asked to go to school. The room stayed silent. That silence mattered. The ruling came swiftly. Karen was found in violation of disability protection laws. Mandatory training was ordered. Fines were issued. And a permanent restraining order barred her from interfering with school transportation again. The HOA was ordered to revise its policies publicly. Accountability isn't loud. It's permanent. As we left the building, Karen stood near the exit. She didn't shout. She didn't insult. She just looked tired. She opened her mouth, then stopped. Some apologies come too late to matter. The neighborhood felt different after that. Not perfect, but lighter. The fear was gone. Parents spoke up more. Children played freely. The HOA meetings were quieter and fairer. Power had lost its edge. One morning, the bus driver greeted Emily by name. "Good morning, superstar," she said. The ramp lowered automatically. No pause. No permission. Emily rolled on smiling. That smile healed more than any ruling ever could. That night, Emily asked me something I didn't expect. "Daddy, was she bad?" I thought carefully. "No," I said. "She made bad choices." Emily nodded slowly. "I hope she learns," she said. So did I. I never told Emily much about my past. About training. About missions. About what real danger looks like. She didn't need that. She needed to know this. Strength isn't loud. Strength doesn't humiliate. Strength protects. Months passed. The story faded from the news. But the changes stayed. Accessibility improved. Training became mandatory. Policies were enforced equally. All because one child was brave enough to sit on a curb and still believe she belonged. Emily changed too. She raised her hand more in class. She spoke up when something felt wrong. One day she said, "Daddy, I helped a new kid today." I smiled. That's how justice spreads. Quietly. On the anniversary of that morning, we stood at the same bus stop. Same sidewalk. Same time. Different feeling. The bus arrived. The ramp lowered. Emily boarded without hesitation. I stayed behind, watching. Protecting without needing to intervene. Some people think power means control. But real power? It means knowing when to step aside and letting dignity lead. Karen thought she owned the rules. But the rules were never hers. They belonged to everyone. You don't measure a community by who it excludes, but by how fiercely it protects its most vulnerable. The end.